How tall would you say this building is? Well, your answer may change if I outlined different lines. If you have noticed, this building uses a bunch of different linear designs all throughout the structure, and this will change your perception on how you look at this building. Today we are going to be teaching you some more build mode tricks on how to make a building look taller, look longer, look smaller, how to make a certain room look brighter, darker, using different colors, other methods, and how to make your map look more like a city, more like a town, more laid back, more spread out, or more tight and very close together. But before I even go there, I want to make sure that you are subscribed, so make sure you press that big red subscribe button right beneath this video so that you will be notified when we upload a new video. You better tap the bell icon as well. Now let's get right into this. If you're going for this vertical design, if you want your building to strike others as a tall building, very tall, this may not be the tallest building in the map. You can make it look like the tallest by outlining these vertical lines through your building, making them stick out. If you've noticed, I'm using thin walls right here, and then the rest of the framing is a block. Here's an image of the original framing of the map for this hotel structure. You just start to notice how the verticality builds up and how the long lines that we have right here, especially this black line on the top and the bottom, outline how long it is in terms of length. What if you were given a small amount of block height to work with, and you still have to make your building appear tall? This whole room, this whole loop, which we recently updated, may appear very tall right now. Now this is where I really use forced perspective in a different way than its normal definition. There's the windows. Look at this. From the outside, they look really low to the ground. From the inside, they make the building feel taller because, technically speaking, you got about 3.5 blocks, because this is actually half block with this light dark gray color right here. This is the stadium eatery area that surrounds the stadium itself, and we want this room to feel tall. So I added the windows at a height where you couldn't see the roads, so you weren't reminded how low to the ground you were or how low the windows were to the ground. So I pushed them up to the upper 2 windows and then put framing around it to pop out, which is something every window should get. And we also did the same thing with the TVs, placing them towards the upper top, and it really made it feel vertical. Using these columns, I used this quite a bit to also make these little eatery cubicles feel taller. If you want to have a room and you want to make it feel more open, less cramped, all tight, you're given a darker palette of choices to work with for walls, maybe flooring, possibly ceiling. What do? Demo time! We are putting in a giant window in here. Now, that won't always make sense. Sometimes it's not always going to be on the ceiling. You want to use as much space out here or out here as you want, but you want to have a window so that it feels less claustrophobic. Here's another example of how we can do a little bit of both of the two things I just mentioned. Adding height, but also adding in the window design. I have the windows, and we have the white walls, which are also a brighter color, the brightest color in your palette. You don't want to overuse the white. How tall do you think this building is? Well, in this shopping center of 5 buildings, it's actually the smallest. I outline and highlight the vertical corners, especially the corners. That's what you want to be getting when you do this stuff. Now, let's say you do want some depth without the overusage of windows or lighter tones. In this case, it applies in many restaurants that you see in the real world. Use your black colored ceilings. Use your darker colors. This darker tone will add a lot of depth. It's not necessarily making it feel smaller, but generally speaking, it will make it feel much more height. For instance, shadows are very dark. It has depth, but it doesn't necessarily distinguish how big or small, or give you a different perception of how big or small the area in which you're using this color will be in. So dark palette works too, and this is a perfect example. Now here's another tip that may be considered a bonus tip. If you want your map to feel more spread out, more laid back, more maybe even rural, if you're going for like multi-building kind of area, think to yourself, do you find sidewalk, building, road, sidewalk, building in a rural area everywhere at every single intersection? Most of the time you'll have a hard time finding these intersections. Sometimes you'll be even lucky enough to find there's not even a building at every intersection. In less suburban, less urban areas, if that's the idea you're trying to convince your audience that you have, you want to move your building away from the sidewalk, away from the road. You're going to give yourself space. Why? You have the space. Now here's an awkward example of how to incorporate a little bit of both. Now, I have a whole backstory with McDonald's. It was actually a fixer-upper. We flipped the building. It originally was a giant brick bank. It was fan-made, but it didn't last long, so we changed out all the colors. We took out some parts, added in some new parts. It was always built on the sidewalk. And while I'm at it, it was also built before this entire mountain was here, before Wall was here, before the parking lot was here. Now you have this tight, cramped area that you find in your urban area. It's kind of ironic to see that on the other side of that cramped area, you have parking lots. And I'll give you one more bonus tip. If you are building a city, a town, an alleyway, anything with a road, a sidewalk, and a building in it, make sure that your sidewalk is higher, at least a half brick higher than your roads are. You're kind of giving yourself a boundary as to where the cars can drive. From this angle, these buildings look higher. Why? They're closer together. They're all piled on top of each other, jam-packed in a very close, tight area. Double height gate allows not only Piggy, or you even, to jump over it, which is a nice barrier, but it also adds again to the forced perspective height aspect. The building is high, but adding in all these windows that we did recently, especially this cool line design that kind of it smoothly transitions right into the security wing of the building. It doesn't really scream, hey, I'm a tall building as much anymore. Now it just screams, hey, I'm a long, lengthy building. This is stuff you're gonna have to test out if in your map. You may not know what you want until you build it. So I hope I put a good idea of what you should potentially consider changing in your Piggy Build Mode map. If you like these tips and want to learn more tips, I can give you 25 more tips all in this one video. Just click on this thumbnail right here. But before you do that, make sure you tap my Piggy Plus logo and subscribe to the channel and tap the bell so that you will be notified when we upload another video like this. I will see you in the next episode. And as always, comment for more content. You have been watching this on Piggy Plus.